Welcome to the Food Service Hygiene Dialogues 2021, Chef Silvena.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about the role of the chef in hygiene and food safety in the kitchen today. And we wanted to understand from you, how important that role is, what entails that role, and what are the challenges of this role. So I'm just going to start with the first question, which is tell us a little about the role of an executive chef when it comes to food safety and hygiene in the kitchen.
Um, the food of the executive chef, when it comes down especially to food safety and hygiene, is especially imperative for the simple reason that really you are like the gatekeeper. People not only just come to enjoy and to celebrate the best times of their lives, their birthdays, their anniversaries, weddings, and the last thing they want is actually to have their health compromised. So it's not just coming to have delicious, tasty food and an amazing experience, but it's actually coming to make sure that you're safe. And safety never really features, we just take it for granted. We think, oh, it's going to be all right. Well, COVID changed things in a big way. Safety no longer is looked at the same way. So, whilst the law is changing quite rapidly, it's not rapid enough to change in respect to events of our lives, such as COVID. So suddenly, we actually talking when we talk about food delivery, for example, we talk about contactless food delivery, which is not mentioned anywhere in the law. So we had to adjust as we went along. We had to be thinking very quick on our feet. Now, as an executive chef, and my role is a little bit more different because I am not 24/7 in the kitchen. I actually look after the kitchens, look after the chefs. My role is actually to install in my chefs, in my sub-executive chefs, in actually the executive chef of my restaurants, how important it is to overlook food safety, hygiene, behavior of chefs as well. We now have to observe our own symptoms. If somebody is a little bit sniffling, I don't let them anywhere near. So these little things, you need to be very intuitive as well, not just to look at like the law, for example, the UE law, which is great, and just think, oh, ensure food, health and safety and sustainability for human consumption. This goes without saying, but nevertheless, rules are rules. We have to follow them. And basically, the person that is in charge of the food establishment, it's kind of a person that we designate to overlook the rules. Then it is actually a personal thing. You need to also approach it as though, I always say to my chefs, cook for the guests at our restaurant as though you cook for your nearest and dearest, like you cook for your daughter, your child, your mother, your father. Only then you will take this extra care. It needs to be personalized to that level, in my opinion. But then again, I'm a woman and I get very emotional about it because I don't just go to work to slapdash some food and put it on a plate, and then maybe the food. I mean, in my case, in my career, which is over 30 odd years, I have to say that I haven't had any dreadful cases. I seem to remember maybe one or two in UK in my restaurant in Mayfair and one in Dubai, but they were connected to food poisoning, which is another very huge gray area. And I don't want to talk about it now because this is not your question. So all I'm saying is that I need to be on top of everything. And if I'm not there, I still need to be somehow there in one way or another present. It's installing ownership. If you manage to get ownership, especially in UAE, chefs come and go, they come and go. The transition of chefs, the transient chef, it's a very common affair. And we need to really make them feel like they belong, like that this is their place. It's very important. Only that way the law can be carried out and the understanding of humanity, because it is about humanity. You are giving food, you're feeding them with your hands, you're talking over the food. You mustn't be doing these things. You have to be super clean and healthy.
We're talking about how you have a range of chefs under you because of you have restaurants across the world. So how do you keep up to date with the food safety regulations and laws, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic? How do you keep up to date with the government restrictions or laws across the globe in all your restaurants, and then instill that into your chef?
I mean, I'll give you just one example, one simple, very simple example. I am extremely tough. And because my personal area of expertise is the area of biohacking, which means biohacking your own system to live longer, to improve your biome, your biology for the better, to actually become a younger, better, stronger, healthier self, food for me matters a lot. To the point that even when I have my suppliers supply my meat, my fish, I make sure that my meat comes hormone free. Okay, we're not saying hormones are, well, I don't know how to say that, but I'd rather not even give my customers hormone fed meat. And you know, some of the meat connects hormones. So, what I'm saying is that I started very early on when the pandemic started and when we all stopped for a while, when we came back to work, the regulations were a little bit, they were strict, but some regulations said things, this thing, that thing, you know, and there was a certain confusion, which is normal because this was a very unreal situation for all of us. So I put everybody on masks, even masks were not obligatory in the very, very, very beginning. And I can't remember, was it before we closed or after? And people were saying, why is she doing this? There's no need, there's no stipulation for that. And even now, when I'm traveling around the world with my work, I see every country approaches the matter in a very different way. All I can say is that in the UAE, Alhamdulillah, we have very strict rules and they have to be observed. I believe it's Sheikh Al Nahyan that actually is the Minister of Food and Health and Hygiene Safety in the UAE. The law has to be followed. So we have two rules in our kitchens. We have a designated chefs that actually take care of the rules and they actually tick off the boxes as per the requirement of the government. For example, the training, the rehabilitation of workers before and after conditions, for example, like especially with COVID, a lot of establishments in the UAE had members of staff with COVID. So we took it very seriously upon us. We really did. We actually lost a lot of business. We closed restaurants on occasions in order to give a very mass quarantine for our staff because we wanted to make sure everybody's healthy. Especially in my restaurants, it's very easy because, well, that's not very easy. It's very easy to determine if there's a problem. Why? Because I rely a lot on repeat business. I am in a community where people live. They like to come eat, go home, come and eat, go home because my restaurants there in Jumeirah Golf Estates are within a very huge community of 2,000 villas and a golf course. So it's very easy. It's not like tourists came, then they flew away, and I don't know what happened. They may become whatever, you know, we just don't get the feedback. However, like I said, Alhamdulillah, we haven't had anything untoward or non-negative in any way. But you need to be constantly watching the situation, constantly be on a walk in the kitchen. And even if the mask is a little bit dropped under the nose, it used to be that I would say, please put your mask on now. If I see something, I say mask, or I just slip with fingers because, you know, it makes you sound like an ogre, but they need to learn. We need to learn. We need to be really strict because basically it is the rules and it is how we live for the time being. Perhaps in future things will change, and they are changing already. We have a lot more relaxed manner of life, especially in the UAE, because business is business. But for me, it's very important to ensure the medical fitness to my workers as well as the mental fitness of my workers. I want them to be happy and healthy. And one thing I will say to my staff, to my chefs, is that especially in the USA, we all spend more time in the kitchen than with our families. For starters, our families are not even with us. We need to do our best. We are the family we have. So therefore, we need to protect each other. And, you know, unfortunately, those are very young men and women. They don't see it like that sometimes. The rules we need to follow and tick off by the legislation are one thing, but then there is the common sense. I'm older, I've lived longer. Wisdom does not come with rules and regulations and paperwork. Wisdom comes with experience. And those that are smart and clever are like sponge. They absorb everything I tell them. The ones that aren't don't stay with us for too long.
Very well said, Chef. So, tell us a little about your role at Nassau and any specific ways in which you have trained your staff to maintain hygiene and food safety in the current times?
Now, my role at Nassau is a chef that overlooks menus, put new menus, train the staff for everything. Um, I actually am very observant. You can, I don't spy. I just observe. I like to know what my chefs do, how they behave, because I also need to understand if they're happy. Because if a person is happy, you see, I talk about these things because these are very important things. I can't just say, oh, go to Article 9 of this and that page of this and that document and read it. And it's like you learn the words, but they don't sing. So it needs to be in your heart. You need to cook with your heart and with your passion. And this is, we know that's what makes the best chefs. But at the same time, I'd like to talk to my chefs. So when we have a meeting, I take a very different approach. I talk to them about family, about the importance of respect, about the importance of the fact that the people we cook for actually eventually pay the bills, and this is how their salaries come from. They need to understand that it's not a given. The money don't just drop from the sky. So my most contact is to actually talk one-to-one with somebody who really needs a little bit more attention. I, as a woman, I feel like very much a mother of the kitchen. I very rarely have female chefs, which I love, but it's harder. Right now in my kitchen, I don't have one single one, but I have had in the past. They just come and go. They're more transient than the male chefs. So for me, it's actually a matter of installing a quality within them, which will serve them better as sons, better as husbands, better as brothers, uncles, etc. And at the same time, make them better professionals and let them rise through the ranks. Because, not everybody will become a head chef or executive chef for the simple reason that they wouldn't care. And if we don't care, we can't progress in life. And yet they all do, they all want to. So we have a lot of meetings. I repeat a lot. I believe in repeating the same things, what they have to do, how they have to do it. We just need to ensure the safety of the whole feed establishment. Like we need to ensure this entire communication, because we have the feed establishment, we have the person who actually implement the rules, and then I teach them how they should keep samples of food, for how long, for when. Food separation is extremely important, segregation of food, certain foods not put together. And most importantly, we have a lot of kitchens. So it's keeping an eye of how sometimes one kitchen can say, oh, I've run out of eggs or something, or run out of avocado, how we transport them from one to another, not just holding it and then walking around. Simple things like that. They may sound trivial, but it's about common sense. And it's strange how sometimes chefs forget that, because it's like, and at the same time, our establishment, especially in Dubai, oversees things. We stop with the temperature checks. But remember, there was a time where we used to check temperature all the time. Now, most of our staff is vaccinated, which is a great thing about the UAE. So making sure that you're vaccinated, making sure that you're aware of symptoms, making sure that you watch around yourself, you become that much more observant. And those things that are about common sense are not included in the official legislation, articles, documents, and provisions by the government. However, it is extremely important, like say in our kitchens, we have, for example, we have pork licenses. So it's very important to adhere. We have a separate pork kitchen, cooking it in a separate, serving it in a separate plate, washing the plate differently. They overlook things like that. Those are very simple things, but they're very important. So, and then there is the alcohol licenses. The penalties are very high in the UAE. And we have been very fortunate, never ever to experience any problems. But like I said, I am very strict, extremely strict, and it seems sometimes as a little bit aggressive, but I believe in discipline, and I will never ever allow anybody to misbehave in any way. They know, because when I enter and when a chef sees me entering, he will say something so they know I'm going in. So if they're healthily afraid of me, that's okay. I have no problem with that, because you know what? Rules are rules. And as an executive head chef, you're a bit of a general on the military field, you know. But I have very good people with me that work with me. My team is very good. We're moving them around different kitchens all the time. You have to be extra vigilant, because say one is an Indian kitchen, one it's Nassau, then I have Botanica, which is also my kitchen, which is like a daily, very different food. So especially the time when quite few of my chefs, a long time ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 months, were with COVID, we had to use probably a very handful of healthy chefs that we knew were healthy around the place. So for me, it's very important, this session, because things are, because of COVID, things will never be as lax. And I'm not saying they were lax, but they were a bit more relaxed before. Things are a lot more important. Um, there are practices even in the pastry kitchen that can no longer take place because of how we cook and what we cook. You know, like you cannot even blow a birthday cake anymore. You know, things have to change. You can't just put the birthday cake and then somebody blows it and then wow, you know, all these 30, 40 people are eating the birthday cake. So in the same way as this is changed, practices in the kitchens have to change. And people need to understand that. Yet some chefs probably think, oh, it's okay, it's live. No, it's not live. Precautions, precautions, precautions.